The horror genre is my absolute favorite of all the genres in movies. And all the subgenre and dom genres are my favorites too. Even if there are some entries in all these respective little rungs of this horror ladder, I still love it when a horror movie slaps me in the face, makes me belly laugh, or makes me say, oh goddamn shit, holy hell, what were they thinking there? More of that, please. Yum, yum, yum. More horror into my pores, the horror, as it were. That's what I'm here to talk about, because there have been some terrific horror movies throughout this calendar year, and with the year winding down, it's time to talk about the ones that I really, really loved. Really, really loved. It's real love. Whoa! It's real horror love, ladies and gentlemen. I'm John Ridlin with the 15 best horror movies of 2025 list with some honorable mentions, and all these have been reviewed in full on the Real Honest Movie Reviews playlist. And also, I put up a list of these on my Letterboxd. I've decided that any list that I do in 2026 and beyond will basically just be movie related. And since you guys seem to love lists, and I love doing them because I love going through all the movies that I have reviewed, and in 2020, it was a little easier because I did like 138, something like that, released that year. And in 2021, it was like 78. And then in 2022, it was like 200. 2023 was like 276. Last year was 337. And as of this recording, I am recording this a couple weeks before the end of the year. I'm nearing that 337 total. But realistically, I'm looking at every single horror release that I have not seen yet, and I'm pretty damn certain that they'll all be middle of the road or barely above average. So let's just get right on into it because I got a lot of this shit to talk about. So, honorable mention story now, The Decedent. It's a found footage movie set in a funeral home with the body of a serial killer and spirit spoopy stuff. And actually, for the budgetary constraints, and boy, were there obvious ones, it ended up being pretty good. A little bit stretched out, more of a VHS anthology entry put into a full-length feature. But pretty damn good overall. Bit of a rushed ending, but felt earned and pretty well acted overall. And then we get to Drop. Yes, Blumhouse did something good this year, and I didn't think Drop looked all that good from the trailers. Not just because Blumhouse is involved, and Blumhouse is pretty much the bane of my fucking existence. I have a list, by the way, of the Blumhouse blunderbuss, which is ranked from worst to best. Well, going in ass-ending order, and boy, is there an ass end to that list. But Drop was one of the very good ones, and was one of the Regal Mystery movies that I saw this year, and ended up being a pleasant surprise. Good tension, good acting, some nicely timed, bits that were basically set in the goddamn restaurant, plus a very good lead. And sure, the ending was a little bit goofy, but by that point, you're invested, and Drop turned out to be something well worth your time. Rounding was a review that I got a little bit of hate for. I think essentially because I probably wasn't as complimentary of it, or maybe, I don't know, people just thought that I didn't explain the thing well. The thing is, the movie's pretty goddamn self-explanatory, and also it's just your standard guys trying to overcome some emotional trauma that manifests its way into physical ailments and stuff like that, and as a doctor, he starts to unravel, even though it has a pretty obvious conclusion. Good story building, good acting, pretty good overall. So let's get to Raw File. More found footage goodness. This is a little bit better than The Decedent, even though the budget, I think, was even smaller. They managed to make this apartment-based horror movie pretty goddamn good. Highly unexpected, because I remember clicking on it thinking, well, this isn't going to be very good, but the way they did the stuff with the killer and the acting, despite the fact that, again, micro-budget, and you could tell that a lot of these people were inexperienced being in big projects, end up working pretty good. So it's on Tubi, I believe. Please check it out. And Shelby Oaks. Chris Stuckman, after doing YouTube videos, reviews, all that stuff, got a pretty successful Kickstarter campaign going for his project Shelby Oaks. I believe him and his wife worked on. Keith David even has seen it. I did get to see this as the AMC Scream Unseen a little bit before it came out. I fully admit that Shelby Oaks is not a perfect movie and feels a little bit rushed. I believe Neon Studios funded a little bit of it so he could shoot additional footage. So it's like an 80 to 85 minute movie and has enough good story building and a pretty damn good commanding lead performance to where you can overlook a lot of the flaws. I wouldn't mind seeing a director's cut with a little bit more footage, but to me, I thought Chris Stuckman did pretty good. It's not perfect, it's not great, but given the constraints and given the budgetary limitations, I thought pretty good overall. Let's get to the top 15. VHS Halloween. Fun size. That's pretty much the reason why I'm putting this on there. There were a couple other entries that were pretty good. There was only really like one tape that I might have taken off or just tweaked a little bit and, made a little better. But fun size is the main reason why this is on there. And if you've seen it, and you get it. If you've seen it, you've seen it. Boy, that was a redundant statement. But this was a return to form, because I didn't know how this was going to necessarily go. I didn't know if VHS Halloween was going to please me very much, because realistically, I thought the annual entries that have been on Shudder pretty much since the thing got revived with, I believe, VHS 94. I think it was 94. There were issues I obviously had after 99. The VHS sci-fi one wasn't necessarily that great, but this was pretty goddamn good. And something that gives me hope that maybe they can pump some new life into this. Also, fun size. Number 14, Dangerous Animals. Boy, what a beautiful lead actress was in this, and what a great finish. Har har. See, it has sharks in it. Do you get it? This is one of the only good shark movies that I saw this year, and I saw quite a few. I almost thought of doing a list of shark-themed movies, because I got to see quite a few. There was Fear Below, there was Great White Waters, there were a couple others, but this is the best of them. Australian flick with a really good villain, and sure, it's a little bit stretched thin, but it has such good, pacing to it, to a point that even when there are parts that are a little bit like this, you can forgive it because you can see what they're trying to do. And plus, pretty damn good acting, that lead performance, and also the villain was just having a goddamn time of his life. And by the way, in case I'm being a little bit vague on some of this stuff, it's because a lot of movies, some names I can remember, some names escape me, and I don't want to misquote them. But I've had a lot of fun with Dangerous Animals. It was also the second straight mystery movie that I saw that was from Australia. So we go to number 13, Clown in a Cornfield. $1 million or just over that, and they got a lot out of this work. You want to be friends with Funzo? Because if not, Frenzo may kill you. And it's about a clown in a cornfield. Actually, there are multiple clowns in a cornfield at one point. That's not necessarily a spoiler. And it has some neat gory deaths. Some good crisp, like seasoned writing, because you can tell that clearly the people love horror and they were able to tweak things to get the proper delivery. And even if it was a small production, there were like Kevin Durand was in this. That was pretty nice, especially after his turn in Abigail, and also his turn in Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. But I found Clown in the Cornfield to be a whole lot of fun. I had more fun with this than I expected, because I was like, okay, I'll probably catch it on Shudder. Oh, it's getting a theatrical release? Sure, I'll check it out. And you know what? I'm so glad I did, because it was a fun theatrical experience. So we go to number 12, Bone Lake. Bone Lake was also a Scream Unseen movie, and way more fun than I thought it was going to be. There wasn't nearly enough boning in this lake. There were bones in a lake, so as far as titles go, that is pretty accurate, but really it's just kind of like a perfect getaway mixed with Speak No Evil, except Bone Lake's actually good. See, I didn't like the first Speak No Evil, but it was leagues better than the US remake. Bone Lake does have one particular trope that I'm not going to mention here because it is a spoiler that I usually hate, but I was invested enough with the humor, and even if it does do a little bit too much story building and world building before it gets to its eventual great, bloody third act, at least it feels earned, and I like the performances. I thought it was a whole lot of fun, more than I expected. So, number 11, Freya Waka, more folk horror. I'm sorry, Stu Hart took me over there for a second. You're making Diane acting like a little... Well, anyway. Freya Waka is another Irish folk horror movie that really takes its time building to the point you can stop building and get to, oh, you're just going to keep adding stuff. And adding an addition in a loft apartment above your 3-story house. Yeah, it is kind of standard fare, but has good performances and some really good atmosphere. That's why Freya Waka gets put on here. Number 10, Sister Midnight. People would argue this is not a horror movie. Fuck you, it's my list, and I will say that because there's some horrifying shit in this. Some horrifying imagery about a wife in an arranged marriage that just wants to get away. And it's nothing even necessarily against her husband, but it's one of a few movies that I saw set in India, I believe set in Mumbai. It's this and All We Imagine Is Light. And Sister Midnight ended up having some really scary shit about the changes and the stuff that women go through to deal with arranged marriages and just certain societal standards. And I thought the lead actress was fucking great, and I quantified this as a horror movie because there were some genuinely oh shit moments in this, even if it was mostly comedic. I mean, let's be perfectly honest. Clown of Cornfield was pretty comedic. Like, you could argue that a few other movies that I've mentioned so far are pretty comedic. Like, Bone Lake had horror elements, but was mostly comedic, a dark comedy, as it were. So Sister Midnight gets mentioned at number 10. Number 9, Ash. Isa Gonzalez, however you say that gorgeous goddess, I will watch her in anything. This was a Shudder original that got such a limited release, it was either playing in Seattle or at a theater in Bellingham that I actually ended up seeing Silent Night, Deadly Night, the remake, as well as Dust Bunny. I ended up actually going up there. It's a very nice theater. It's just for me driving. Bellingham's about an hour away, so it can be a little bit rough. But Ash was playing up there, and I decided I'm going to go, and I'm happy I did. People compared this to the 2017 horror movie Life. This was much better than Life because I hate everybody in this. Also, you are putting Isa Gonzalez on my screen for a good 90-95 minutes. Flying Lotus had something to do with this. The musician, filmmaker, not an actual Flying Lotus, as hilarious as that would be. And with good pacing, familiar steps, but some good creature effects, and just the fact, again, Miss Gonzalez, this goddess on my screen, I can't complain one bit. And it just ended up taking familiar tropes and making them work for the most part. So we get to number 8, that is, Together. Real life couple Dave Franco and Allison Brie, provided they didn't actually rip off one particular guy that had another idea. I'm perfectly okay talking about this. Otherwise, I retroactively take it back. But for now, they basically touch something that causes them to fuse together. And that's pretty much what the movie is. Very darkly comedic with some great body horror effects and some admittedly, jarring moments to it, but you can't help but laugh. Laugh through the fear. The fear that you could actually be bonded to somebody maybe you weren't meant to be with. It's unusual. This is one of the few movies that Neon actually delivered on. Because there were other movies that they didn't deliver on, but more on that maybe with a letterbox list. But I like Together. I thought it was fun. So we get to number 7, Hard Eyes. Devon Sawa probably being the creepiest of anybody in this. And I mean that with respect because Devon Sawa is a great actor. Jordana Brewster's in this. And you have some other good leads in this. Mason Gooding. And a really nice pace as far as everyone having a kink. I don't know why we always get the weird people, the weird killers here in the Pacific Northwest. It's supposed to be Seattle. I actually wouldn't be surprised if it was Canada, because some of those cities do look alike, and the traffic's about equally shit. But Hard Eyes is about a hard-eye killer killing people around Valentine's Day. That's pretty much it. It's a lot of fun. I think it's on Netflix right now. Otherwise, it should be on their streaming service. So, number 60, Ugly Stepsister. Fun fact, the theater screwed up the time that I was supposed to watch this, and I actually drove down there, missed it, because they cut that time out completely, and I had to come back a few hours later to watch this late at night. this European horror movie that is about one of Cinderella's stepsisters that goes to great lengths to change her body. Now, mind you, this is back when surgery wasn't just archaic, it was practically torturous. And the lengths that women go through for beauty standards, to achieve beauty standards. There's some great body horror in this. There are a few things I don't necessarily know we needed, but the lead actress, whose name I'm not going to try to pronounce, did a great job. And boy, there were very, very sick parts of this, but I had a great time. The Ugly Stepsister highly gets recommended. Check it out on Shudder as soon as you can. Number 5, Strange Harvest. This one came out of nowhere. I saw like a teaser and saw that it was like documentary style about a killer that takes people out and then comes back a number of years later. And it's presented documentary style with a bunch of people, cops and various people that have studied this stuff, acting like actual people in a documentary while they intersperse it with pictures. And this killer that is, pretty goddamn jarring. Some say the ending's a bit of a letdown. I can't say I totally agree, but I get what they're saying. It's at least nice and satisfying as far as going up to that point. Even if you can't fully stick the landing, I appreciate the efforts of Strange Harvest and had a lot of fun. I really do recommend you guys check this out. It's one of the unsung horror movies in general of 2025. So we get to one of the most praised horror movies and one of the most advertised horror movies of the year, Weapon. Zach Krager following up Barbarian with this. 17 children go missing at 2:17 in the morning. We get Julia Garner in it. I will watch anything that beauty is on. And that talent, by the way. Talent, most importantly, but beauty. She is just great. And Josh Brolin is in this, and really it just has a lot of fun. It gives the Naruto a run to the goddamn, run for its money. Weapons is a lot of fun. This is one of the few that I have actually rewatched, and it gets funnier and a little more jarring every single time. And also it's just funny that the woman that played Kevin Costner's wife in Field of Dreams is the aunt in this, and it's just so good. So goddamn good. So let's get to number 3. Final Destination Bloodlines. When I first saw this trailer, I said, well, this is going to be on my worst horror list. And when I saw another trailer, I was convinced of it. Then I sat down. That opening sequence is the best of the goddamn franchise. One, it reminded me of the Space Needle. I've been in the Space Needle. I don't ever want to go in the Space Needle again. But it has to do with a lady stopping a particular series of deaths that causes a bunch of people that shouldn't have been born in the first place to be born. So now death is coming back to wrap stuff up. Also, that closing bit from Tony Todd right before his death, because he passed away some time ago. Rest in peace, Tony Todd. Incredible delivery. Makes me tear up every single time because he knew, and it was a very, very nice thing for the filmmakers to basically say, Tony, forget the line. Say what you want. And sure, you could argue that the characters are kind of hard to care for. And outside of Tony Todd, of course, I wouldn't disagree. This is probably the most bland set of characters we have. But I also thought that Caitlin as the lead was fine. And I wouldn't mind seeing her in more stuff. And I thought, as far as the deaths, as far as pacing, I thought this was pretty goddamn good. Number 2, Bring Her Back. It was so close between this and number 1. If you can't guess what number 1 is, you aren't paying attention. But Bring Her Back, for the Philippou brothers, after Talk to Me, was a raging, throbbing success, as it were. Bring Her Back basically shows you why you should always vet foster parents. I had a great time with this. I had a tremendous time watching Bring Her Back. It was the mystery horror movie that I saw before Dangerous Animals. And it was so fucking jarring. That part with the fruit on the knife. If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. Ending, I don't think, sticks it as well as Talk to Me. Even though I saw the ending for Talk to Me coming as well. This just kind of happened. But it was so good up to that point. I can overlook any issues I have with it. But really, Bring Her Back isn't just one of the best horror movies of the year. It's one of the best movies of the year. Philippou Brothers knocking it out of the park once again. Can't wait to see what their next project is. Probably it's going to be Talk to Me, the two, instead of the word two, which is creative. Number one, we gonna kill every last one of you. It's Sinners. It was so close between these two. I kept going back and forth, like, do I just judge it based on horror? Do I judge it based on being a horror movie as well as a great movie? And I decided that Sinners just ekes it out. Sinners, I have rewatched. Along with Bring Her Back, oh God, there's just some jarring stuff in that. But Sinners is especially scary because a lot of the themes really do hold true today. You know, they may just be in Clarksdale, Mississippi. That shit's still going on everywhere. We have come fur, but we haven't come fur enough. And we still got to get to where we don't judge people based on their skin tone, based on how they vote. That's what I do. And that's why I don't talk to some of my family. But Sinners, Michael B. Jordan in dual roles, Ed Haley, Stanfield, my God, my goodness. Abby, if you haven't been watching this, I get it. I absolutely get it. It's Abby on Twitter, but Abby VX, I believe. Absolutely get it. Great music, incredible music. One of the best soundtracks of the fucking year. I've listened to that soundtrack while driving, which is a mistake because it's very relaxing at times. But it's great if you're in rush hour, then you can calm down so you're not ready to just beat people up in Western Washington traffic because it's bullshit. But that being said, Sinners, so goddamn good. If there's one issue maybe with Sinners, is it takes so long with the world building that the horror just has to be thrown in the very last little bit. But really, there's horror all around us, and that's what Ryan Coogler proved. There you go. And Sinners is also one of the best movies of the year. So, let me know your favorite horror movies in the comments. Please like, share, subscribe. Twitter, Letterboxd, Blue Sky handles in the description. I'm John Ritlin, and until we see more horror movies in 2026 and beyond, happy trails to you.